This is Trisha Paytas talking about Eugenia Cooney. Trisha has said that they have B.E.D, bin GE eating condition, and I want to show how this demonstrates, just as the YouTuber I follow, Graphically Alex, has pointed out, that a lot of people with B.E.D have the same beliefs, the same distorted beliefs about how other people think, and the same kind of comparison aspect as people with the more famous eating conditions. I want to point this out to show an example of that. And most importantly, if you have these conditions, I want to show you, like, please stop using your belief that most people think like this to reinforce yourself, or at least be aware that that's what you might be doing. You might be doing that, at least unconsciously, telling yourself everyone wants to look, as Trisha is going to say, right? Like, or most, or it's really common and normal to want this, and you'll be treated better, and there's, people admire if you look like this. If you're telling yourself that, you could be using that to justify eating too much or eating too little. You could see it as, well, that's too crazy and that's what people want, so I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And various other conclusions you can come to from that, which I think Trisha does a little. Trisha isn't in fat acceptance, but Trisha is ambivalent about recovery from what I've seen. I've just looked into Trisha just briefly. Trisha does mukbangs while admitting that they have B.E.D, so it's kind of ambivalence. Trisha doesn't promote getting over obese or say it's good or anything, but they're also doing mukbangs and on for entertainment and views. So it's like, I think this is evidence of one of the ways that you can use distorted beliefs to reinforce your distraction, which I think all of these big three eating conditions are distractions from other things in your life. And this is one way you keep it going, is to tell yourself everyone thinks like this. This specifically, watch this.
Does anyone want to look like this, or is it just like the perception of yourself is like, do they think this?
I think so. I think some people want to look like this. I think when I was young, I thought that was the beauty. This is how warped I am. I'm like, oh, you can never be too skinny. So I have to really read into this, because I'm like, oh, why are people like shaming her? Like, that's what people want to look like. Like, in my head, I don't think it looks terrible.
So no, most people do think that looks pretty bad. They won't think that is understandable or relatable. Like, Trisha seems to find it relatable and understand, whereas Ethan Klein next to Trisha doesn't, as far as I can tell from this video, doesn't have these conditions. It doesn't talk like he does. I don't know a huge amount about any of these people, by the way. I just looked into just enough to understand what I was looking at when I did a little shallow dive into Eugenia a few years ago. And now, having watched Graphically Alex, I think I understand it more. I think I see what this is. This is the same psychology. It's just being used to reinforce a different kind of behavior. This idea that society values this. It's really only the minority of people with these conditions who would actually glorify and admire and put Eugenia on a pedestal for doing what she does to herself. Most people either pity it, or if they don't understand it, they might be very judgmental, because they would just see it as, you're just being vain and you don't care about the consequences. They wouldn't maybe understand that it's a coping mechanism. They wouldn't have sympathy, and they might be at least mildly judgmental, but then they're not going to be super hateful. Like, people who've had these conditions can be very judgmental. It can, in a over the top way, and start hate channels about Eugenia, for example. I've seen that from people who've had Anna, that they are very unnecessarily mean, right? And it's always people who've had Anna, and they're normally anonymous accounts, but you look in their comments, they've had it, and they use that to justify being mean. But it's driven by their past. Like, it's whereas most people, it's either pity or a passing, fleeting judgment of, not understanding it and thinking it's just petty vanity, right? That's how most people react, and most people have to ask the question of, why would you want to? Are you not understanding what you look like, and it's an accident? Or is it that you actually look like that? Ethan Klein has to ask that question, like most people do, because most people genuinely think it's odd and they don't understand it. So again, there's evidence. It's not performative in this case. You can clearly see this isn't like someone just pretending that they don't really find it attractive when everyone really wants to look like that. Like, sometimes people pretend to like or dislike a body because they think it's what people want to hear, right? But this isn't that. This is a man asking, what does anyone actually want to look like that? Because to most people, looking this extreme is confusing. People often disagree in the border areas of where under and overweight really look, what they look like, and where should you worry and stuff. But when it's more, when it gets more obvious that someone's one way or the other, too much, too little, right? When it gets obvious, the vast majority of people agree that it's weird to want to look like that. And it's not judging, it's just saying like it's not normal to want to look like that. So please stop telling yourself it is normal if you are doing that. Listen to how Ethan thinks about it. That is how most people think.
I will say, like, me from 2 years ago would look at this and be like, I need to not eat. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I still now, I'm still like, damn, I should just stop eating. And I know that's like so, like, I'm sorry, I don't want to trigger anyone, but like that's literally my thought. Is like, I need to not eat. Like, and I was like that. I would feel like if not eating is my choice of being skinny.
So that's not normal. The comparison there, when you compare your body to someone else, it's just not normal to go to, I must do this. That's the abnormal part, apart from obviously wanting to look like that. That's not common. But also what's really not normal is I see someone else's body and I immediately compare it to my own. See, what I would do, right, when I see someone's body that I really like, if I do really like how like their arms are more toned than mine, their legs are more toned than mine, whatever it is, and in a way that I personally like my ideal visual aesthetic that I think is the most pleasing to, gives me the most endorphins to look at, I just appreciate, I like looking at the arms. I'm like, wow, that looks really good. Like, and you look really good in that outfit. And it makes me, I'm appreciative of in the same way I like looking at a sunset. It makes me feel good. I'm appreciative of, I get to look at a nice sunset. I get to look at the curtains I put up and I like my curtains. I get to look at my nice dragon clock. I love my dragon clock. It's like that. I'm just appreciative of the nice thing to look at because I have a more feminine brain in some ways, not super feminine, but that means that my brain is very sensitive to visual pleasure and I get a big boost from really pleasant looking things. I think that's more of a feminine brain trait, which might be why more feminine brained people get these conditions. I'm not sure. That's my little theory. Versus masculine brained people of any sex. The more mask you are, it seems the more protected you are against these conditions. That's statistically. And I do think it's just that it's a beauty orientation. You're more focused on beauty in general. And if you're healthy minded in this way, you just appreciate looking at something nice. You're not like, it's terrible that I don't look like that necessarily. Now you can think, that looks so nice. It would be really nice if I looked like that. If my legs were that toned, it would be really nice. I would really enjoy my trousers, my leggings even more if they were that shape, so I'm gonna look into, maybe I can get that, maybe I can do something to make my legs more like that person's legs. That is the extent of it, and that is the tone of it. It's like, it shouldn't be a really intensely negative thought. It should be like, that looks really nice. And it might be anything from fantasizing about looking that way to, I wonder if I can make myself look that way. But it shouldn't be like a desperate feeling or a hatred feeling of yourself, anything like that. And it shouldn't be I need to X, like in this, it's the tone as well as the actual thought itself. And yeah, that's all I want to say from here. I will link to the full video. There is more that I could talk about, but Clipchamp keeps crashing on me if I go over a certain number of minutes. So I'm going to quickly pause this before it has time to crash out on me again. I hope this was helpful to someone.